The more you measure, the more you're going to win. And the more you win, the easier it is to keep going. Hey, you guys, I'm Jonah Magness. Welcome back to the Mogul Magness Podcast. I own and operate martial arts studios, and I've been able to help some of my friends be more successful in their businesses as well. So we're going to talk about what's been working for us. Typically, what I see most people doing, including myself, was measuring goals by the outcome. I was focused on getting to a certain number of students, getting to a certain monthly income. And then what would happen is I'd slide backwards. So for example, I would do this in fitness and in my business. I had a goal of being in shape. I had a goal of getting to a certain weight. And then what would happen is I would get to that weight goal, and then I'd take a few steps backwards so I'd take my foot off the gas pedal. I wouldn't keep pushing. I wouldn't move my goal fast enough to make sure that I was going to continue on my progress. It was the same way with my business. I would have a student goal, or I'd have a revenue goal, and I would hit that goal, and then I'd take my foot off the gas, and I'd fall back a few steps, and I'd find myself in this cycle that just kept on going. Now, with the frame shift that I'm going to talk about in today's video, about focusing on the inputs rather than the outputs, not the end goal, but making your goals what you put into your work, I've been able to lose over 30 pounds. I've increased the lifetime value of our clients over 55%, and I'm going to help you guys understand the steps that I took to make that happen. In a game theory class I took in college, we talked about finite and infinite games. And my professor talked about how business was supposed to be an infinite game. And I didn't really pay much attention to what that meant or how it was supposed to be applied. And what that led to is me falling into this cycle. And it took me way too long to learn, which is why I'm talking about it today. So hopefully you guys figure it out faster than I did. For me, I figured this out with my training and fitness a lot faster than I necessarily did tying it into my business. And they work out the same way. A finite game is something that you can win. So basketball, football, traditional sports where there's an end and a score and you know who won the game, versus infinite games like fitness and getting in shape. That's not a finite game. You don't ever get in shape. You continue to be fit. So it never ends, and you want to make sure you continue on that process. It's the same thing with business. You don't win at business. The goal of business is to stay in business. So as long as you're operating, you're winning. So how do you measure and track that? And that's what I had to change for myself. And then immediately I started seeing much better results. The main thing that I would focus on, like I talked about earlier, is I changed my goals from the outcome and the outputs and the end goal, and changed it all to what I was putting into it. The actions I took each and every day was my new goal. So instead of it being, I want 200 students, I changed it to, well, what's why I can get that many students in my studio? I switched it and started doing 100 calls a day to new leads or to former leads or to prospects. I also did little things like, it wasn't about a weight goal, it was about going to the gym 300 days in a row. Once I made this shift of focusing on what I was putting in, the outputs just came. I was able to see results by being able to focus on the work I was doing and not the results I was getting, and celebrating that I was able to do 100 calls 3 days in a row, that I was able to go to the gym and lift weights 10, 20, 30, 40. I'm on day like 260 something now. Days in a row of actively working out and making a conscious effort towards it. And these little things helped me get more successful in business and in fitness. And it was all just by switching my goals to the inputs. Not every day has been 10 out of 10. But if I tell myself I'm going to work 10 hours, I'm going to do these 5, 6, 7 things in those 10 hours, I'm going to make sure I do all of those things. Even if it means tomorrow or the next day, I have to spend the first 2 hours of work fixing or improving upon my last few hours of those 10 hours. Maybe I killed it for 8 hours and then I kind of petered off. I still am going to make sure I work for 10 hours. I'm going to make sure I hit that input goal. And then the next day I'll fix and I'll be able to see what was quality work and what wasn't. And then hopefully, and it has shown, the longer I've done it, I've been able to more consistently output at a very, very high level. That all just to be summarized, that even bad days are progress towards your goal if you're focusing on the inputs. Because as long as I make those 100 calls, even if it's 100 voicemails or 100 pickup and hangups, I still hit my goal, and I can't control what other people are going to do. Similarly with fitness, I can't control how good my workout's going to be every single day, but I can control that I showed up to the gym and I put in my best effort for that day. Once I started focusing on the inputs, the outputs in the direction that I wanted them were just a byproduct, and they happened automatically, which was awesome to see. It made it a lot easier to keep going. And how I was doing this was I was tracking every little thing. Did I make 100 calls? Did anybody pick up? Did anybody book? And then the next day, did I make 100 calls? Did anybody pick up? Did anybody book? And I just celebrate if I got more pickups that day, whether I called at the same time or not. I celebrate if I booked more appointments that day. I celebrated just making 100 calls. So that way I had 3 different things I was measuring, 3 different ways I could win, and that made it a lot easier to keep this progress going. I made all of these input goals work for me because I made it all a competition with myself. I found out that competition was going to help me be more productive after I read Ali Abdaal's book, Feel Good Productivity. He talks about our play personalities. The play personalities are competitor, collector, explorer, creator, storyteller, joker, director, and kinesthete. After going through this book, I found that I tended more towards the competitor side along with a couple others. So for me to be more productive, I had to gamify it into a competition for myself. So could I do 100 calls in a day? After I did that, could I do it for 3 days? Was I able to go to the gym and lift weights 7 days in a row? After I did that and recovered, I made sure I worked out 10 days in a row, going to the gym and lifting weights every single day. And then the next one was going as many days in a row as I could until I was just too sore and my workout had to change up. Since treating everything like a competition, I used my mindset around finite and infinite games to create an infinite game within my business to help me be more successful by focusing on the inputs so that way I could do it for the longest time period possible. Share this video with someone who you think needs to change their output focus goals to input focus goals so they can be more successful. Check out the rest of my podcasts in the playlist and subscribe for more.